First Tort Talk of 2026. We're here with Joe Fantini, Marc Rioux. I'm Jon Robinson. Today, we are doing the January power rankings. So starting a new year, starting a new month, here are the power rankings, counting down from number 10 for the torts that your firm should potentially be interested in over the coming month. And we are going to start at number 10. Joe, toxic baby food, down a few spots from the last ranking. What are we looking for in this mass tort? Where does it currently stand as we enter the new year?
Like you mentioned, John, we're focusing right now on what cases you should get involved with in the current environment. Coming in at number 10, we have toxic baby food. There's a little bit of uncertainty about this litigation. We've been at it for almost 2 years now. We had one bad ruling, if you recall, in the state court action, and now we're really waiting to hear from the NTL court on whether or not the plaintiff's experts are going to be able to come in. So that's a huge ruling, and that's going to shape this litigation going forward. I don't think we're going to have a ruling before the end of January, but sometime in Q1, we'll get some guidance on that. And if the experts come in, expect this case to fly up the rankings in the coming months.
Yeah, there's also some relationship to other potential mass torts that we'll be talking about a little bit later. Number 9, we have talcum powder. So a lot of news in talcum powder over the past month. Currently the largest active mass tort. Finally, we got that bellwether verdict a couple of weeks ago. Why does this case only come in at number 9, despite the big verdict that we just saw?
Yeah, great points, John. This is a litigation that people would probably expect to be a little bit higher in the power rankings, but just due to the fact for how long it's been around, these cases are, some of them 15 years old. That's why it's coming in a little bit lower on the rankings. With that huge verdict coming out of the bellwether trial, there's going to be a lot more pressure on J&J in the coming months to end up getting these cases resolved. But it's the largest litigation out there, more than 70,000 cases. I don't think there's 10,000 more cases out there to acquire. So that's why it's still coming in. If you have talcum cases, work them up as quick as possible, get them filed, get them on record. There'll be a lot of pressure on J&J this year. And I think finally we get a resolution for these really deserving clients.
You think that happens in 26?
Yeah, that's the first bold prediction of Tort Talks for 26. I'm expecting a global settlement in talcum powder before the end of the year.
That would be incredible for everyone.
Maybe that's the theme of 2026, global settlements.
Yes.
At number 8, we have weight loss. So people commonly just say the GLP-1s or Ozempic, but it is others other than Ozempic. We were at 8 last month. We're at 8 again this month. We still have those 2 parallel lines of cases, both the vision loss and the gastrointestinal injuries. How many cases do you think we're going to wind up seeing, and where do you see this litigation panning out over the next couple months?
Right. Like you said, John, this litigation's been around for a little bit. Kind of new to the game are these vision loss cases. We have an MDL form for that now. In addition to parallel litigations going on with vision loss and the gastro injuries, we also have parallel litigations going on in the MDL and in New Jersey State Court. With regard to your question about total number of cases, for the vision loss cases, I think we're going to come in under 5,000 total cases at the end of the day. Maybe a 3,000 to 5,000 litigation for those. With the gastrointestinal injuries, if you remember, we had a little bit of a setback with the MDL judge requiring us to put forth these gastro emptying studies in order to prove the gastroparesis. We're appealing that issue, but I think we get over 10,000 total for the gastro injuries, which then makes it one of the larger torts that gets everybody's attention. All told, I think we're going to be under 25,000 between the 2 injuries, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity out there still.
What are the next steps in that litigation? Where is it going as we enter 26?
Yeah, so the vision loss is really in its infancy. It's about a year and a half behind the gastro injuries. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking for some expert workup, and then we're also going to be identifying the bellwether cases. So no trials this year, but there's a lot of opportunity to still get more cases. A lot of people now are really focusing on those eye injury vision loss cases because those damages are huge.
All right, coming in at number 7, it's our first technology platform on the list. How does the recently formed MDL impact the litigation?
Yeah, so Roblox, this is the last MDL that was formed in 2025. Definitely a lot of excitement about this litigation. Horrible, horrible cases out there. This platform, we're alleging, didn't do enough to really keep our children safe. They didn't verify the identity. This is a really important issue. I know you guys have kids. Everybody wants to do right by all of the children out there. The reason why I don't have this litigation higher on the rankings is I don't think we're going to end up seeing a huge number of cases, fortunately. We'll see how this litigation shakes out, but what's going to be a qualifying injury versus what doesn't end up being a compensable case, that's really what's going to need to be determined. It's probably going to be a little bit similar to what we saw and what we're seeing in these Uber, Lyft sex abuse cases, where the actual damages and what the child, the minor, went through is really going to be a heightened standard. So these are very important cases. I just don't see this blowing up into one of those massive mass torts like Talcum Powder or Roundup, but definitely a good cause to be involved with.
At number 6, our first really big jump of this month's power rankings, Depo-Provera moves up to number 6 in the rankings. Is there really a chance that Pfizer wins this preemption ruling coming up?
I don't think so. If you remember, everybody was kind of on pins and needles about this litigation because Pfizer's position was they went to the FDA, they told them about this potential risk associated with the signature injury here, and that there was nothing they could do. The FDA said they didn't need to update the label, and their hands are clean. Well, it comes out before the end of 2025. The FDA requires a new warning and updates it. That basically pokes a hole in Pfizer's argument the whole time. What we're kind of arguing is that they knew or should have known and had the studies and didn't release all of the data that would have required that updated warning. So because of that, they're not able to get out of this litigation. I think we beat back that preemption argument. The cases really go forward. We'll probably end up seeing this being another one, more than 10,000 cases. The reason why it's not higher on the list, just because this product's been on the market for so long, people are experiencing some trouble getting the PID, the product identification, going back 20, 30 years in these cases. That's why we don't see it in our top 3.
Got another tech platform at number 5, Uber sex abuse. We had some news come up just this week, and we're only 1 week away from the second bellwether trial. It's the first in the MDL. What are the key issues in the litigation that we hope to hear from the jury in the upcoming trial?
Like you mentioned, John, we have this bellwether trial teed up. It's going to kick off next week. Uber, as Uber does, fought tooth and nail to get this pushed back. Their latest argument was that there were some attorney advertisements that could potentially be prejudicial to Uber. The judge saw right through that argument. The trial's going forward in Arizona. Hopefully, we're going to take some of the lessons learned from the state court trial, where the jury found that Uber was negligent, but that its negligence didn't necessarily cause the injuries to plaintiff, and we're able to put that puzzle together and paint a clearer picture for the jury and end up with a nice verdict in favor of these very deserving plaintiffs. We got some more bellwethers scheduled in 2026. I think we're going to do good in this upcoming trial. The first mass tort bellwether trial of 26 should be a win for the plaintiffs.
Yeah, we hope so. This one's been going on for a little while as well. At number 4, dropping from number 1, which means we have a new top spot in this month's power rankings. At number 4, we have Roundup. For all of 2025, we looked at Roundup as the top spot in our power rankings. What is happening in 2026 with Roundup litigation?
Right. If you've been following along here, you know I'm a big fan of Roundup. I still believe in it, but I just think there's some better opportunities out there at the moment, and that's why fell a little bit in our rankings. Everybody knows that Monsanto appealed up to the Supreme Court. The Solicitor General came in and said that the case should be heard by the Supreme Court. Typically, we see the Supreme Court follow the Solicitor General's advice 60, 70% of the time. So we'll know before the end of January if the Supreme Court is going to take up the preemption appeal. If they end up taking up the case, we'll have a decision before the end of June about whether or not preemption is a defense in these cases. But as you guys had Seth on here at one of your Tort Talks about Roundup, even if Bair Monsanto wins on that argument, the cases are still viable. The plaintiffs still have other causes of action. But because this case has been around so long, similar to what we're seeing with the talc cases, there's probably some better opportunity to get some newer cases. But I still believe in this case. It's just not coming in at number one anymore.
That's a good point to make here. It's not that Roundup necessarily has dropped. It's that there's actually more positive movement in our top three. So good call out, though. That interview we had with Seth was a good update for those who are looking to get deep into the Roundup litigation.
Yes, that's the man on the ground there. He's got the inside story. So if you guys want to know what's going on really with that, make sure you check out that podcast with Seth Crompton.
At number 3, we have social media addiction. So one of the first bellwether trials of 2026 will occur in social media addiction litigation. What are you hearing about the upcoming trial that gets this case into the top 3?
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz. There's probably the most excitement going on right now with the social media addiction. You know, as these cases go forward, the more evidence we discover, the more rulings we're starting to see out of the trial court, potentially having Zuckerberg testify, all of these big tech companies being called into court. There's going to really be a lot of pressure on them. And I think we're going to end up with a good result. We have these individual cases. We have some school district cases. So a lot of pressure coming out of the MDL and in the state court. I think we're going to get some big verdicts here. And if they're smart, big tech's going to end up settling these cases before we have too many trials. There's a lot of potential plaintiffs out there who are very worthy and need our help. I think this is a good one that's going to stay in our top 3 until we have a resolution.
Yeah, Mark and I have watched this one from its infancy, working with Matt Bergman in the Social Media Victims Law Center. Glenn and Laura there, they all do great work. I was speaking to Matt a couple weeks ago about the upcoming trials, and there's definitely a lot of optimism moving into 2026 about this litigation. But it's also moving in other directions as well, as we're seeing some of those AI cases start to get filed. So keep your eyes peeled, those of you watching, for what's happening in this litigation. It's taking a bunch of different turns. We're looking at all the different platforms that are being used. And you're seeing this sort of bring other things to the surface, like Roblox and video game addiction, which also by chance comes in at number 2, video game addiction. What do you like about this case? What brings it to number 2?
Like you mentioned, this case really piggybacks on what we were able to accomplish in the social media addiction. What I'm hearing in this litigation is we tried a second time to get the MDL formed, focusing on a more limited number of defendants. That request was denied, but all hope's not lost. We still have ongoing in California, a great venue in the JCCP out there, this consolidated action. We're going to have a lot of action coming up in the coming months. There's been a lot of rumors coming out of potential early settlements. The defendants really don't want this information getting out on the news, hurting their stocks. So there's going to be a lot of pressure coming on them. And I think there's probably the largest potential pool of plaintiffs out there. So a newer litigation with strong theories, deep pocket defendants, that always makes for an appealing mass tort. And that's why we have that coming in at number 2 in the first Tort Talk rankings of 26.
Before we hit number 1, we've got one to watch. There's one on the list. We've got Bair Hugger. It's a legacy mass tort. We've got about 9,000 active cases. How do you think this litigation plays out?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. You guys always hear me talk about once a mass tort crosses that 10,000 case threshold, it has to get everybody's attention. So a long, twisted history of this mass tort going back more than 10 years. But now, finally, after a lot of fighting, a lot of distracting, some of these cases are really getting ready to go to trial. We have the MDL with about 9,000 cases. The judge entered an order making workup of 150 cases, not necessarily for bellwether, but for remand cases. A lot of activity going on there. We have a couple state court cases moving forward to trial. So there's pressure mounting on 3M. This product dominated the market share. There's a lot of cases out there, some big injuries. So keep an eye on it. I think we could see it rise in the coming months. I don't think we'll hear about a resolution in 26, but maybe in 27.
One more before number one. We have a wait and see on Tylenol. Does the Second Circuit breathe new life into this litigation and give it another chance at potentially making its way back into our top 10?
Like you mentioned there, John, we had the oral argument with the Second Circuit. It went well. They seemed to be receptive to our arguments that the judge and the MDL overstepped the bounds and went a little too far in that gatekeeping role. I think we have a little bit better than a 50-50 chance of breathing life back into this litigation. So keep an eye on that one. We'll probably know in about 60 or 90 days. But with that being said, do you guys want to get into the number one tort?
Yeah, let's do it.
Can we get a drum roll, please?
Coming in at number one, we have hair relaxer. So a new king in town here. This litigation's been around for a number of years. We have the all-important Science Day coming up this week. That's going to be a chance for each side to really get in front of the judge, educate the court on the key findings, the key studies, the key playings. And from there, the momentum's going to keep building. A mass tort with more than 10,000 cases, big pocket defendants, far along in the litigation. I think everybody's excited about this. This is the number one tort to start 2026.
What a list. Our top 10 for January 2026. Thank you so much, Joe, for putting this together and giving all of our watchers and listeners an opportunity to hear the case types that they should potentially be interested in at their firm. We will be, all three of us, at NTL, because Joe made that decision 5 minutes before we went on to this podcast, that he will be joining us at NTL as well. So make sure you reach out to us if you are heading to that conference, and we look forward to seeing everybody there.
And we'll be doing a Tort Talk live from NTL Miami, just like we did at MTMP. And we'll be recording the Jon and Marc podcast live from NTL as well. We're excited to see everyone in person to kick off the new year.
Can't wait to see you guys down there.
Miami in January. Let's do it. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week on Tort Talk.